Hey, and welcome back to Miss Kitty's Wild West Adventures. Today, we're time traveling not just to 1899, but also back to 2022. Yep, this is one of the very first videos I ever made. This one's about a woman who's about as wild as they come, Pearl Hart, the lady stagecoach robber. Now, full disclosure, this was early Miss Kitty, so if the audio's a little off or the pacing's a little wobbly, that's why. But the story, still solid and still fascinating. So stick around and meet the woman who made headlines with a pistol and a plan.
On May 30th, 1899, a stagecoach bounced along a dusty, well-worn trail on the way to Florence. The three passengers, along with their driver, had just left the Riverside stage station at Cane Springs Canyon. Being nearly summertime in Arizona territory, the temperatures were well into the hundreds, and the four on board were no doubt already thinking about the whiskey waiting for them at the Tunnel Saloon in Florence. Suddenly, from up ahead, there was the unmistakable sound of a shotgun report. Before they knew it, the passengers were all standing outside the coach in the blazing sun, while two bandits held their guns on them and demanded all of the money and possessions they carried with them.
This is a robbery.
All told, the bandits stole $469, a gold pocket watch, and two pistols. As the bandits turned to leave, one of them turned around, dug into a satchel, and retrieved four $1 bills, and proceeded to return $1 to each traveler, including the driver. "Get something to eat when you get to Florence," the bandit had said. The passengers must have stared in awe at the bandit, for he was wearing dark slacks and a white shirt. He had on suspenders and a gun belt. On his head he wore a dark gray hat. To all the passengers, the bandit had appeared to be a man, until he had opened his mouth, and the voice that came from that masculine cowboy was most assuredly a woman's voice.
She was probably telling the travelers to smash that like button and subscribe to Miss Kitty's Wild West Adventures.
Pearl Taylor was born in Ontario, Canada, to religious, affluent parents. At 16, she was sent to a boarding school where she met Frederick Hart. They fell in love and eloped. But soon after, Frederick became abusive to Pearl, and she left him. They reconciled and split up several times over the next few years, and eventually the couple had two children. In 1893, Frederick and Pearl attended the Chicago World's Fair, where she first saw Buffalo Bill's Wild West show and became enamored with the cowboy lifestyle. She left her husband again, this time to embark on an adventure out west. She first headed to Colorado, but soon found herself in Arizona territory. She was a self-proclaimed drifter who hopped from town to town, working as a cook, as a singer, and reportedly even at a brothel. In 1898, she found herself in Mammoth, Arizona, working as a cook in a boarding house for miners. It was here that Pearl Hart received a telegram from her brother that their mother was very sick. Pearl needed a lot of money, and she needed it fast. She enlisted the help of a friend named Joe Boot, likely an alias, and the two hatched a plan to rob the Florence Globe stagecoach. Whether they knew it or not, travel by stage in that part of the territory was slowly coming to an end, and because there hadn't been a stage robbery in months, no shotgun messenger would be on board. On paper, sounded like a great plan. However, neither knew the desert very well, nor how to cover their tracks, and the law eventually caught up with them just 6 days later. They were arrested. Joe was held in Florence, but since Florence did not have holding facilities for females, Pearl was taken to Tucson. She didn't stay long, however, as in October, she escaped, leaving behind an 18-inch hole in the wall. 2 weeks later, she was recaptured in Deming, New Mexico, and brought back to Florence for trial. At her trial, she garnered sympathy from the jury by telling them about her sick mother. She also famously stated that, "I shall not consent to be tried under a law in which my sex had no voice in making." Her impassioned plea worked. The jury found her not guilty. The judge, however, was not happy, and she was rearrested and tried with tampering with U.S. mail. This time, the jury found her guilty and sentenced her to 5 years. She was sent to Yuma Territorial Prison, where she became quite the celebrity. The warden even gave her a larger cell with a small yard and allowed her to entertain reporters. For being an inmate, she had quite the life. In December of 1902, after serving just 2 years, Pearl was released with a complete pardon from the governor of the territory, under one condition: she must leave and never return. One story says that she, a female surrounded by male inmates and guards, became pregnant. Whether this was true or just a fictitious pregnancy cooked up by a very intelligent and sly Pearl Hart, the world may never know.
So Pearl Hart was released from prison in 1902. She left the state, as was part of her release conditions. She ended up starring as herself in a play about her life. She wound up in Kansas City, where she ran a cigar store. But in 1940, a census taker went to a ranch house in Dripping Springs, Arizona, interviewed George and Pearl Bywater. Pearl told the census taker that she was none other than the bandit queen herself, Pearl Hart. Here we are at the gravesite of George and Pearl Bywater. Pearl Bywater, aka Pearl Hart. And there you have it, Pearl Hart, bold as brass and twice as stubborn. Thanks for taking a step back in time with me, twice. If you're new around here, don't worry, my videos have definitely leveled up since this one. And if you've been with me since the early days, well, bless your heart. Either way, make sure to check out my newer content. I drop full-length videos every week, and they're only getting better. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and ding the bell for notifications. And in the meantime, I'll catch you on down the trail.